then I have another XLSM, which is a macro-enabled Excel file. I have an Access database, another macro-enabled Excel file, but you might have noticed that this one is all uppercase and the previous one is in lowercase. Then I have another Excel file and another Excel file for Tacoma, and the file format is in uppercase. A mix of files. All kind of files are available inside this folder. Each one of these files has the name of a city, and I'm only interested in the Excel files. So although I have files of different extensions, I'm only interested in the Excel files, whether they are regular Excel worksheets .xlsx or they are macro-enabled Excel files. Okay, so what if I open one of these files which has the name of a city, and I want to look inside that file to see what we have? Still, you don't need to do anything, just watch what I'm explaining on screen. I'm explaining the work situation. So what if I open the first file for Oakland? And of course, because it's an Excel file, it will fire up Excel. And I don't want to sign for an account for now. Would you like to buy or test Office 365? No, thank you. That's very kind of you. And here I can see a list. In this worksheet, I have a list which shows a date, a product, units, and sales. And if you look at the name of the worksheet, that's the name of one of the employees, one of the managers. If I go to the next worksheet, I have the same exact setup, date, product, units, and sales with different values, but for a different manager, and the same for the next sheet, and so on. So the name of the workbook corresponds to the name of a city. The name of the worksheet corresponds to the name of a manager. And sometimes I have an extra sheet which doesn't have related data, it doesn't have sales data, so I'm not interested in this one, so long as it doesn't have the name of a manager. All the workbooks are the same. So back to the File Explorer, where I have the contents of this folder, I want to exclude anything which is not Excel and keep only the Excel files. If I'm able to keep only the Excel files, I want to combine all the sheets from all the files and create one single normalized data set. And when I do that, when I create one single normalized data set, I will be adding two extra columns. One column for the city, which is the file name, and another column for the name of the manager, which is the worksheet name. And then I'm going to test my data. I will summarize it with a pivot table, and once I do that, I will bring another file and jot it down inside this folder, and then refresh my query and see the result. Are you ready? So I start by opening a new blank Excel workbook. I click on the Start menu and I select Excel. I create a new blank Excel workbook. I close this yellow message bar because I don't want to activate right now. And I'm going to start by creating a query that looks inside this folder. And to create a query that looks inside this folder, I click on the Data tab of the ribbon. When I click on the Data tab of the ribbon, and to the very left of the Data tab, I click on the down arrow for Get Data, and I select from File, from Folder, a blank Excel workbook. No, now you start working with me. A blank Excel workbook. I go to the Data tab, and then I click on the down arrow for Get Data, from File, from Folder. Are you working with me? When I click on From Folder, a window will open and it will ask me where is that folder. So I need to locate the folder. It's on my desktop and it's inside the Power Query parent folder. And from here I select 02 Nabil 1331, and then I select 1331 Start Part 1 Source Data. That's the folder having the mix of files that I want to bring. Once you find the file, please click on Open. This window is called the Navigator window, and it shows me the contents of the folder. These are the contents that I showed you while explaining what we intend to do. So these are the different files of the different extensions. And the situation is really complicated. I cannot combine them. I have different file extensions. I cannot load them as they are. This is totally useless. But I want to take them to the query editor, so I click on Transform Data. Please click on Transform Data to open the query editor. When you open the query editor, you see the contents of this folder. These are the files that we saw few seconds ago. To the right side, we have the query settings pane and the name of the query. To the left side, this is useful if we have multiple queries, but we just have one, so I'm going to collapse this pane, the query pane, on the left-hand side. Please collapse the query pane to make more room. As always, I want to start by giving a nice name to my query. So I select the current name and I change it. And because I have the intention of combining the sales for all the sales rep or the managers from all the cities, then I'm going to name my query All Cities. Renaming a query, as we learned yesterday, doesn't add a step to the applied steps. Now I start cleaning and transforming my data. And because I have the intention of keeping only the Excel file, so I'll be using the extension column to achieve this goal. How do I use the extension column to achieve this goal? I will filter out anything which is not Excel. But filter is case sensitive in Power Query and in all business intelligence applications. The filter is case sensitive. So if I say I just want to keep the XLSX, well, this second XLSX, which is in uppercase, will skip the filter, although it's an Excel file. Then before filtering, I need to convert everything to the same case. And I'm going to convert everything to lowercase. To do that, I hover over the label, the extension, I right click, and then I hover over transform, and I select lowercase. When I do that, an extra step will be added under applied steps, and if you look at the extension column, everything will change to lowercase. Please click on lowercase. Now I'm ready to apply a filter. We have multiple filters in Power Query. If you click on the down arrow, the regular filter that we use in Excel by checking and unchecking boxes is not the suitable one. Because if I say I want to uncheck everything and just leave XLSM and XLSX, that will not work if later on you add a PDF file, a PSD, a JPEG, or a PNG file. So I'm not using these boxes. I hover over text filter, and from the sub-menu, I have multiple comparison operators. I want to keep the file that contain, then I click on contains. Contains what? Then I type .xls. What does it mean? It means I want to keep the files that have a .xls in the extension, whether it's a .xlsx or a .xlsm. So if I move this box to the side and then I hit OK, then you can see that I only have the Excel files. I have this funnel icon to the right side of the extension column, denoting that this column is filtered, and to the right you will see filtered rows. Next, the beauty of the applied steps that I can go back and see how the previous step looked like. After getting the data, it looked like this. I'm going to click on source, and it looked like this. I added a step to convert to lowercase by right-clicking the extension, hover over transform, and select lowercase. I'm not clicking because I don't want to repeat, but this is what I did. So if you want to see how it looked like after the lowercase, I click on this tab, and this is how it looked like. I then added a step for filtering. I clicked on the down arrow, text filter, contains, and I typed .xls. So it looked like this. I excluded the file that had not Excel. Another thing I want to show you, what if by mistake you type something and you want to change it? Then you have to the right side of any step a gear icon. If you click on the gear icon, that will open the same step one more time, and you can make the modifications you want. I don't want to modify anything. I was just showing you how to edit a step. Were you able to do these steps? Just it. Excellent, excellent. Our intention is to combine all the sheets from all the workbooks. And because the workbook name has the name of a city, then I want to extract the name of the city to use it in a separate column. And I can see the name of the city in the name column. Actually, this is the name of the workbook, but I want the name of the city from this column. Yesterday we learned that we can split okay, for you, if you have it, work with Saint Jose and then we'll remove it. I deleted it for me and I said keep it outside. If you didn't do that, that's not a problem at all, because when we finish the project, and just to check whether it's dynamic or not, what I'm going to do is to put San Jose inside the same folder and refresh. For you, you will be doing the opposite. You will be deleting it from the folder and refresh. Do you get what I mean? Okay. So I want to split the name column to extract the city name. We learned yesterday how to split. We have the split command everywhere. We have it on the Home tab, we have it on the Transform tab, and we have it in the right-click menu. It's the same exact thing. So let's use it today from the Home tab. I want to split by delimiter, so I select by delimiter. The split column by delimiter dialog box opens, and I can see that it picked up the correct delimiter, which is a period. All these options are the same: leftmost delimiter, rightmost, or each occurrence. That's because we have one single delimiter. If I hit OK, I would have split the column into two. When you split a column, you get the same name for the two new columns with an incremental number. So I'm going to change name 1, because actually this is the name of a city. So I want to rename the column named name 1. I can do that by right-clicking and select rename. That's one option. I can rename it by double-clicking and just typing, or I can rename it using the shortcut of the Windows operating system, which is F2. So when I hit F2, I can rename it city, and I hit enter. I can see the steps under applied steps. And now all what I want to keep is the content column and the city column. What about all other columns? All other columns, like the extension, the date it was modified, the date it was accessed, the date it was created. This is data about the data. We call it metadata. I don't need it. I just want to keep the content column and the city column. So I want to remove the other columns. And to keep the content and city, I click on content. I press Ctrl or Shift and click on city. Ctrl and Shift work the same because the two columns are next to each other. And then I right-click and select Remove Other Columns. Remove Other Columns. When I click on Remove Other Columns, then the only columns I want remain and the other columns are gone. And here I have a step, Remove Other Columns. Are you following with me? Am I going too fast or too slow? Linda, that's a very good question. How do we know what we want and what we don't want? Of course, it depends. What's your goal? What do you want to do? And that's why I explained upfront what I intend to do. You have a folder. Inside this folder, you have different file formats. You don't want the file formats that are different than Excel. You just want to keep Excel. And then you want to combine all the sheets, and you want to combine the data from all the sheets from all the workbooks. You want to create a column for the city, and you want to create a column for the manager name. Then, of course, I need to exclude all the files that are not Excel, and we already did that with the filter column. I want to extract the city, and that was the split step when I split the file name. And then I definitely need the data. The data lives in the file. Binary means the Excel file itself. And to prove it to you, if I click in the blank to the right side of the text binary, you will get a preview of the file. This is the name of the file, the extension, and the file size. So what do you want to keep? I want to keep this one. This is the column having the file itself. Does it make sense? Okay. Now what I would like to do is to look inside each one of these files. I'm not quite sure if you already know from Excel that anything you have inside an Excel file is called an object. A chart is an object. A diagram is an object. A filtered range is an object. A print area is an object. The worksheet is an object. You learn about that more in a VBA course, but what you need to know for this course is that everything inside an Excel file is called an object. What type of object do you want to keep? Well, I want to extract from each one of these files, I want to extract the worksheets. I'm not interested in print areas. I'm not interested in a chart. I'm not interested in a shape. I just want to extract the sheets, which are objects. And I have a special function in Power Query that will extract the different objects in each one of these workbooks. And I can assure that this is the most popular Power Query function. What's the name of the function? Excel.workbook. What does the function Excel.workbook do? The Excel.workbook function will look inside each one of these binary files and will extract the different objects. And because it will extract the different objects, it will extract, among other things, the worksheets. And because I just want to keep the worksheets, after extracting all the objects, I will filter the result, leaving only the worksheets that I want to combine all together. Is it clear? Do you understand what I want to do? Very good, very good. Let's go ahead and create this function. But where am I going to create it? I need to create a new column where I'll be creating the Excel.workbook function. And to create a new column, I click on Add Column. On the Add Column tab, I click on Custom Column. On the Add Column tab, I click on Custom Column. A dialog box opens, the Custom Column dialog box. You can give a name to this new column, and the name is not really important because I'll remove it later, but out of habit, I like to give it a name that reminds me of what the function will be doing. So I name it Get Excel Objects. It has no importance whatsoever, the name. It's just a practice that I do to remind myself what this new calculated column will be doing. And now I'll be creating my function. Remember, Power Query functions are case sensitive. The name of the function, the most popular Power Query function, beyond any doubt, Excel.workbook. And I open bracket. Excel, capital E, .workbook, capital W. You want to extract the contents of these workbooks. That right? Yeah. From which column? From the content column. The content column is storing the files. So I double click on content. At this point, I can close the bracket. That's not a problem. And if I do, I close the bracket, I get a green check mark saying that you don't have any problem with your function. But let me ask you a question by logic. It's just a question by logic. Remember, in each one of the workbooks, we have multiple sheets. On each sheet, I have a date, I have a product, I have a name, I have sales, and so on. And I'm going to combine the data from all the sheets. And because in each one of the worksheets, I have column headers. It's very important to have column headers. But what happens when I combine the data from all the sheets? And this is what I'm doing right now. When I'm combining the data from all the sheets, do I need to duplicate the column headers? Or I just need one single set of column headers? Do I need to duplicate them? Or I just need one single set of column headers after combining all the data? That's a question. I need one single set. I don't need to duplicate the column header. So how do I do that? I can do it with another function, but why do it with another function if I can add one more argument that promotes the column header? So if I type comma and I type lowercase true, what does it mean lowercase true? It means please, Power Query, promote the column headers. Please keep one single set of column headers. I still have the green check mark and I hit OK. Then I get a new column named Get Excel Objects, and this time it shows me a table. What's the difference? If you click in the blank to the right side of binary, then you get a preview of the file. But if you click in the blank to the right side of table, then you get a table showing the different objects available inside this file. The content column is not required anymore. Before I delete it, before I remove it, I want to show you two types of arrows. This arrow with a double down pointing arrow is used for combining text files. It combines only one single format text files. This double side pointing arrow is used to expand the contents of this column. I just want to draw your attention to the types of arrows we have. I don't need the content column, then I'm going to remove it. I right click and then remove, and it's gone. Now I want to expand the Get Excel Objects. When you expand a column, and if I click to the right side just to show you, I will get a name column, a data column, an item, a kind, and hidden. Well, I'm not interested in all of them, but I'll remove them later. But the moment I click on the double side pointing arrow to expand, I have two options. Option number one is to precede each column header with the name of this column. In other terms, I will get Excel objects dot name, get Excel objects dot data, get Excel objects dot item. Well, I can click on the gear icon to show you what I did, and this is what I did, lowercase true. Okay? So what I want to do, I click on removed columns, and I want to expand, but I don't want the column header to precede the name of each column. How do I do that? When I click on the double side pointing arrow, I take the check away from this box. This box reads, use original column name as prefix. I don't want that, so I'm going to uncheck this box. Once I uncheck this box, I hit OK. And here you go. I get name, data, item, here is my function. Here is my function. Can you compare? Always Linda comes for rescue. Remove the bracket before the true. You are amazing, Linda. Did it work, Baba? Okay, remove the content column. Remove the content column. After removing the content column, expand the get Excel object. Don't forget to take the check away from the box. And this is what I'm getting. Okay? Are we all on the same track? Very good. Very good. Okay. If you look at the kind column, I have different objects. Do you need a defined name? Do you need a print area, a filtered database? No. Then I'm going to filter the kind column. I click on the down arrow. What do you want me to repeat, Baba? I already repeated. I don't understand what you want me to repeat. Okay. I click on the double side pointing arrow and I take the check away from this box. That's all what I did, and I hit OK. When you do that, your query should look like this. Does it look the same? Very good. Now we want to filter the kind column. Why am I filtering the kind column? Just to keep the sheets. Why do you want to keep the sheets? Because each sheet had the name of one of the managers that I'll be using in my final result. I click on the down arrow for kind, text filter, and then I select equals. Equals what? Equals sheet, capital S. and I hit OK. Then I end up by having only sheets, nothing more, nothing less. All the other objects that are not sheets are gone. But when I showed you at the beginning, when I was explaining what I intend to do, I showed you a workbook with 4 sheets. 3 of them had the name of a manager, while one of them was named Sheet 1, and it was created for a totally different purpose. If you have a sheet that doesn't carry the name of a manager, then it doesn't have related data and you don't want it to stay, you want to get rid of it. So how do I do that? I look at the name column, because the name column, that's the name of the worksheet. If you see a sheet that doesn't have the name of a manager, you want to filter it out as well. It's very unlikely to have a manager named Sheet 1. Then I want to filter out anything that starts with the word sheet. So if I click on the down arrow for the name column, I hover over text filter, and I say does not begin with what? With sheet. I hit OK, and sheet 1 is gone. What remains are the sheets having names of managers. And just to make sure that you understand the concept, I'm going to rename the name column Manager. My next step is to get rid of the columns that I don't want. The most important column is the column having the data. And if I click in the blank to the right side of the word table, you will get a preview of the real data that I want to combine. Date, product, units, and sales. Each one of these tables, which corresponds to one of the sheets, will have the corresponding data. Not only I want to keep 3 columns, city, manager, and data, I want to rearrange them. The way you select a column is exactly the order that you will get. And because I want the data column to be the leftmost, I click on data, and then I want it to be followed by the city, so I press Control and click on city, and finally I want the manager, so I press Control and click on manager. I clicked on data first, I pressed Control and clicked on city, I pressed Control and clicked on manager, and I want to remove the other columns. When I remove the other columns, and because I selected the columns in a specific order, I will be rearranging the columns. How do I do that? Right click, remove other columns. So I get the data column, the city, and the manager. Let me remind you what we did. We got some data from a folder, and then we clicked on transform data to take all the contents of this folder to the query editor. I converted the extension column to lowercase, then I filtered it, leaving only Excel files. I split the name column into 2 to extract the name of the city. I created a Power Query function, excel.workbook, to extract the contents. I then filtered the kind column to get rid of any object that's not a sheet. I also filtered the name column to get rid of any worksheet that doesn't carry the name of a manager. And then I removed some columns of metadata, leaving only the data column, the city, and the manager. Did you follow with me up to this step? okay, all the magic is about to happen when I click on the double side pointing arrow for the data column. The moment I hit OK, I will be combining all the sheets from all the workbooks available in the folder after excluding the non-Excel files, and here you go. I combined the data from all the sheets, from all the workbooks. I excluded the non-Excel file, and I ended up with one single normalized data set. We have two classic steps that we do in any project. We review the column headers, and then we review the data types. Date is fine, product is fine, units is fine, sales. If you want, if you like, you can change it to revenue. Let's change it to revenue. No, it's just a personal preference for this project. If you don't want it, then you can put it to the other side. You can put the manager before the city. It's up to you. I changed the sales to revenue. If you don't want to change it, you can keep it. You can change it to anything else. And now I want to look at the data type. We learned yesterday we can change the data type by clicking on this little icon and select whichever data type we want. There is another method for doing it for all the columns simultaneously. So if I have like 20 columns, instead of clicking on this little icon one by one, I can select all the columns. I started by selecting the leftmost. I press Shift and click on the rightmost, and I would have selected all the columns. When I select all the columns, I go to the Transform tab of the ribbon, and on the Transform tab, I click on Detect Data Type. It will automatically detect the data type for all the columns, and it works just fine with one single exception. For the monetary values, it identifies them as decimal, while I want them to be currency. I want a dollar symbol. Then for the revenue, I add this step manually, and I select, instead of decimal, which has 1.2, I select currency, which has a dollar sign. Would you like to replace current? Yes, replace current, not a problem. And I finished creating my project. What do you want to do next? I want to send it back to Excel. To send it back to Excel, I go to the Home tab, and I want to send it to a new worksheet. So I click on the upper part of the Close and Load button, and I'll be sending my data to a new worksheet as a table, and the worksheet name will be All Cities. At this point, I can create whichever analysis I want by creating a pivot table. Do you like this project? Very, very useful. Combining data from multiple workbooks and multiple worksheets. I'm going to show you one final thing. If I go to the Data tab and click on the Queries and Connections, I have like almost 51,000 rows. What if I go, in your case, if you have San Jose already loaded, then you will have 61. But for me, I don't have it because I removed it before the exercise, and I want to see what will happen if I add more files. Then I go to the source folder, which is available on the desktop, and I'm going to select that folder 02 Nabil 1331, and I'm going to put another city inside the folder. I can do that simply by dragging. I drag and drop. That's all. Do I need to recreate the same query one more time? No. You just need to refresh. So with the query selected, on the Data tab, I click on Refresh All. And here you go, I get 61,000 rows loaded, and I would have combined all the data from all the sheets, from all the workbooks. I excluded the non-Excel file, and I have an extra column for the city and an extra column for the manager. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? I want to redo the same exercise one more time. Same exact exercise, but this time I'm going to repeat it in Power BI Desktop. So I'm going to close Excel. I don't need this file anymore. And I want to open Power BI Desktop to explore it and redo the same activity. Yesterday in my introduction, I told you all the experience is portable, all the experience is transferable. So let me open my other presentation, and I just want to show you one single slide. I showed you this slide yesterday, and I told you everything you learned is fully transferable to Power BI Desktop. To which extent, Nabil, is it transferable? You won't imagine. It's copy-paste. Everything. Exactly the same. So, let's open Power BI Desktop, and that's why I'm teaching this course that way. I told you that the most professional people across the globe use this concept. They teach Power Pivot and Power Query, and then we take the skills. Not only I'm taking the same skills to Power BI Desktop, but I will be doing the same exercise. So just to confirm that they are exactly the same. And because we are creating an entire project, I understand very well what Linda said before we start the course. We don't have time to take notes. So are we able to use the notes? Trust me, Linda, even if you get the notes, you won't be happy to read this textbook. The concept that I'm teaching, the way that I'm delivering the course is far better than what you have by learning just individual topics. At the end, you cannot relate them to each other, and you cannot create one single project, whether you trust me or not. And that's why I try to give you more resources, not only the recording, but when I give you my video tutorials, honestly, I'm not trying to market myself. Whether you trust me or not, I don't need to do that. So I'm giving you these resources to help you learn and continue learning and review what you learned in this course. Almost everything I explained is available in a tutorial on my YouTube channel. Okay, let's open Power BI Desktop on the virtual platform. I want to open Power BI Desktop, and here is Power BI Desktop. If you are working locally, you can use your version of Power BI Desktop. That's totally up to you. Power BI Desktop, as I mentioned, is a free application, and you can download it from the website powerbi.microsoft.com. Did you open Power BI Desktop? Are you ready? some time, Eric. When you register to the course, you should have received an email from Global Knowledge on how to access MyGK. Once you access MyGK, you will click on the course name and it will take you to the virtual platform. But even if you use the virtual platform, you won't be able to catch up for this exercise because you need the exercise file, and that will take some time as well. So my recommendation for you, Eric, if you don't mind, is to watch me doing the activity in Power BI Desktop. And it will be kind of repeating what I explained in Excel. I'm going to explore the interface of Power BI Desktop, and then I start doing the same activity, and as you will see, it's identical. Okay, let's go. This is the Getting Started screen of Power BI Desktop. In the Getting Started screen, I can get data, and this is what we always do. We start our projects by getting data. If I created recently a Power BI report, a PBIX report, I can access it by clicking on Recent Resources. And when I create one or two projects, I will see them listed here, like in Microsoft Word or in PowerPoint. I can open an older report by clicking on Open Other Reports. And the Power BI team at Microsoft is very energetic. They have a new update every month. So if you are interested in knowing what's the new update, what's new this month, you can click on what's new. If you are creating a Power BI project and you have any issues, then you can post a question to the Power BI forum, and professionals from across the globe will try to help you for free. If you are the kind of person who learns by reading blogs, you can click on Power BI blog and you will see a huge list of topics that you can explore on your own. But if you are the kind of person who learns by watching video tutorials, you can click on tutorials and you will get lots of video tutorials. This is linked to YouTube. Anything you can do from this screen can be done from within the application. So usually I don't do anything from the Getting Started screen, and I'm going to close it. When I close the Getting Started screen, I'm inside Power BI Desktop. If I'm signed in by using a username and a password, then I will see my name here in the upper right corner, and this is only important if I want to publish my finished report to the clouds, to Power BI services. We have an entire course at Global Knowledge about Power BI services. We don't cover that in this course. It's one single click to publish on condition that you have an account and you signed in. Let's explore the interface of Power BI Desktop. I have a ribbon functionality here at the top. I have like few tabs: the Home tab, the Insert tab, the Modeling tab, the View and Help tabs. Few tabs and more tabs will pop up according to the view and according to what you are doing. These are contextual tabs that will appear and will be added to provide more functionality depending on what you are doing. So we have the ribbon functionality here at the top. If you look at the Home tab, any project starts by getting data. and I can get data by using commands available in the data group. In Power BI, we have 4 views, and views are listed in a pane on the left-hand side. The first view is called the report view, where I create my visualization, where I create the different kinds of charts and graphics and maps. The second view looks like a tabular format, and it's called the data view. Before I click on data view, we have some tabs and panes on the right side. These panes change with the view, because I'm in the report view right now, and in report view I want to create visualizations, and I have a visualization pane. This is the old Power BI. If you are using your local version, it will look a little bit different, because these 2 buttons, which are extremely important, move to the top, and that's way better. I can show it to you on my local Power BI. This is my local version of Power BI desktop. Just to show you the different options. As you can see, my name here appears here at the top, in the top right corner, and this is the Getting Started screen. And because I work locally, then I have some other Power BI files created. My name also appears on the Getting Started screen because I'm automatically signed in to my company account. So I'm going to close it, and look at this. I'm in the report view, and in report view, this is the latest version of Power BI. Then I have the same 2 buttons here at the top, and I'll explain the importance of having the new interface. You can always get the new update, it's free. So getting the latest update is much better, and especially for this specific functionality. Then I'm switching back to the virtual interface. The 2 buttons are here. This is called the visualization pane. To create any kind of visualization, you need to have some data, and we didn't bring any data yet. Where do I see my data? I click on the fields pane to expand it. And if I import some data, as we are going to do, then I will see the fields from the different sources listed in the fields pane. I didn't import anything yet, so I want to switch to the data view. When I click on the data view, the visualization pane will be gone. So I click on the data view, I just have the fields pane, and if I had some fields, if I select any source, I will see it in a tabular structure exactly like in Excel. We have another view, which is the equivalent of Power Pivot. What do we do in Power Pivot? We create relationships in order to create a data model, and that's why we call it the model view. When you click on model view, you understand immediately that in this view we create relationships exactly as we did yesterday, but as you already understand, this is a blank file. I don't have any fields. I will go back to the report view, and someone will ask me, Nabil, you mentioned that we have 4 views, but what we see in this pane are just 3 views. And the 4th view is the query editor, Power Query. And remember, when we selected a folder, and the navigator window gives us many options, among them to transform the data. What does it mean, transform data? Clicking on transform data fires up the query editor, and we have a button for transform data. That's the 4th view, the query editor. And just for your information, in Excel, the name of this button, until recently, like a year ago, was Edit, and they changed it to match the name in Power BI Desktop. This is simply the interface of Power BI Desktop, and now we want to restart creating the same exact project that I created few minutes ago in Excel. Are you ready? Okay. We start any project by getting data. To get data, I click on this down pointing arrow, which is the equivalent of clicking on getting data in Excel. So I click on the down pointing arrow to see the different sources. And before you assume that the source from which you want to get your data, which is a folder, is not available, please be patient and click on the More button to open a dialog box. And this dialog box is called Get Data. And I can simply say, so long as the data exists, wherever it exists, you can get it into Power BI Desktop. And here is a very long list of different sources. Among the different sources, I want to get data from a folder. So I select Folder, and I want to connect to that folder. Remember, the data remains in place, and I'm just pointing to the folder. I'm connecting to the folder. Please click on Connect. Like in Excel, it asks me, where is that folder that you want to bring? And because I'm recreating the same activity one more time, I want to bring the data from within the Power Query folder, but this time I will be using the subfolder 05 Nabil. Okay, so I click on Browse. The Power Query folder is on my desktop, so I select Power Query and expand it, and I have the same exact data, but I have it in 05 Nabil 1332. I expand, and I select Source Data. Did you find the folder? I'm going to hit OK and another OK. I'm going to hit OK and another OK. From this point moving forward, if I don't tell you that we are in Power BI Desktop, you might be confused thinking that we are still using Excel. Please hit OK. Does this window look familiar to you? Copy, paste, copy, paste. All the experience is transferable. I can see the list of files, the same buttons, and I click on Transform Data. Please click on Transform Data. Power Query will open on top of Power BI Desktop. I can maximize it. Same ribbon, same panes, same everything, same dialog boxes, same menus, exactly the same. I can collapse the query pane as I did before, and I'll be redoing the same steps exactly as I did them in Excel. We'll move a little faster, but if you feel like that's too fast for you, I'm moving a little faster because we are just repeating what we did and we have a lot to learn. So, I start by changing the name of the query, and I'm going to name it All Cities. All Cities. And I hit Enter. If you want to help me, you can tell me what should be the next step, if you remember. Linda, always ready. Sean, we'll be doing this, Sean. as a next step. Split the city column. Very good, very good. I want to convert the extension column to lowercase. How do I do that? As you did it in Excel. The split column is here on the Home tab. The split column is available on the Transform tab, but I'm going to use it from the right-click menu. Look at the right-click menu. If I give you a screenshot of the right-click menu in Excel, Power Query in Excel, it's the same. So I'm going to hover over split column, and I want to, I'm going to hover over Transform, and I want to convert it to lowercase. Transform, lowercase. The step has been added to the applied steps, and everything is converted to lowercase. Now, I can filter the extension column to keep only the Excel files. How do you do this? Click on the down arrow for extension. When I click on the down arrow for extension, I hover over text filters, and I say contains what? .xls, and I hit OK. Keeps only the Excel files, and we got rid of the files of a different format. Next, we are going to do what Sean mentioned. We want to extract the city by splitting the name column. How do we do this? Okay, I right click and select split. You know what? I want to be honest with you. I want to be very honest with you. I made a mistake when I showed you split column before, although I was talking about lowercase. Forgive me, that was my fault. Okay? I hope you can forgive me this, because after your course yesterday, I was delivering a virtual course in Singapore. And it was an 8 hours course. And when I finished it, I just took a break and I started this course, so I didn't sleep for like 48 hours. I'm very sorry for that. Okay, but I'll try to concentrate. I'll get a coffee during the break. Okay. For the name column, we want to split it. We want to split the name column. So I right click, split column by delimiter. The delimiter is correct. It's a period, and then I hit OK. So I have the city in a separate column, but the city is the workbook name. So I'm going to rename this column city. I can rename it by right clicking and select rename. I can rename it as I did in Excel by double clicking and type, or I can rename it by using the Windows shortcut F2, and I'm going to rename it city, and I hit enter. What should I do next? Excellent, Sean. I want to keep the content column and the city column. So we want, as Elena said, we want to delete the columns that we don't need. I select the content column. I press Ctrl or Shift and click on city. And I want to remove other columns. So I right click and select remove other columns. The functionality is also here. What do you want to remove? I want to remove other columns. So you can do it from the ribbon, you can do it from the right click menu. We removed the other columns. What is our next step? Very good. I have the best students today. We need to add a column, and we'll be using a Power Query function that extracts the object from each one of the binary files. When I click in the blank, then I can see a preview of the file, but I want to extract the different objects and then filter these objects, leaving only the worksheets. And to do that, I'm going to add a column. To add a column, we click on the Add Column tab. When I click on the Add Column tab, I click on Custom Column. I click on Custom Column. The same dialog box opens, and just to show you that everything is identical, I'm going to use the same name for the column, and I'm going to name it Get Excel Objects. And because I'm always using this name, sometimes clients are confused, thinking that if you use a different name, that will affect the functionality. It has no effect on the functionality. I'm just trying to memorize myself that I'm getting the objects by creating this Power Query function. What's the name of the function? When I was in Excel, I used a function. What was that function? Excel.workbook. Very good. But right now, I'm not in Excel. I'm in Power BI Desktop. Same function. Excel.workbook. And I open bracket. Excel.workbook. Don't forget, Power Query functions are case sensitive. Capital E, capital W. You want to extract the contents of each one of the binary files that are actually in a column named content. So I double click on content. And then I type a comma. When I type a comma, I want to provide a second argument to promote the column headers. And this argument is a true in lowercase. Lowercase true, and I close the bracket. I get the same check mark, denoting that I don't have errors. I hit OK, and here is the new column. When I click to the right side, I see a table. Now the content column is not required anymore, and I can delete it. So I select the content column, I right-click, and remove it. I select the content column, right-click, and remove it. If you are following along, my next step will be expanding the Get Excel objects. And that's simple. I click on the double side pointing arrow, but before hitting OK, I need to make a little change in this menu. What's that change? Uncheck use original column name as prefix. Very good. So I take the check away from this box and I hit OK. I get a name column, which is the name of the worksheet. I get the real data inside each one of the worksheets, and then I get an item column and a kind column, while in fact I just want to keep the worksheets. So I use the kind column for filtering out a table, a defined name, or anything which is not a sheet. So we'll be filtering the kind column. I click on the down arrow for kind. I hover over text filter and I say equals. I want to keep the sheets, so I type sheet with a capital S. When I type sheet, I hit OK. And as you can see, I can read only sheet in the kind column. One more thing to do, because we want to use the worksheet name in a separate column, and because the worksheet name is usually the name of one of the managers, unless you inserted a worksheet for a different purpose and you don't have sales data in this worksheet. In this case, it doesn't have the name of one of the managers. So if you see a worksheet starting with sheet 1, we want to exclude it, or sheet 2 or whatever. So I'm going to filter the name column. Click on the down arrow and then I select text filter. Does not begin with. Does not begin with what? Does not begin with sheet. I hit OK. And now I just have the worksheets that I need. To make it clear, I'm going to rename this column Manager. What should be the next step? The next step is to keep the data, the city, and the manager. We want to rearrange them. And I'm showing you how to rearrange them because it's not because it's a requirement to have the data to the right, to the left, and city and manager to the right. I'm just showing you an option that the order by which you select the different columns will be applied to ordering the columns themselves. So if I select manager first, then manager will be to the left. If I select data first, then data will be to the left. So let's select data, and then I press Ctrl and click on city, press Ctrl and click on manage. Accordingly, the order should be data, city, manager. So I right click and select remove other columns. Remove other columns. Now I have the data column to the left, city and manager, and I'm ready for the final step, which is expanding the data column. I click on the double side pointing arrow and I hit OK. And I would have combined all the sheets from all the workbooks available in the source folder, and I added the workbook name, which is the name of the city, and the worksheet name, which is the name of a manager. I can review the data, the column headers, change whatever I want. I will keep them, but I definitely need to review the data type. I can do it manually one by one, or I can select all the columns by pressing the Shift key, and when I select all the columns, I can go to the Transform tab, and on the Transform tab I click on Detect Data Type. It recognizes the data type for everything But for the monetary value, because it has decimal places, it assigns decimal. When I have a preference to changing it to a monetary value, then only for the sales, I click on the little icon and I want to change it to currency, the dollar symbol. But here in Power BI Desktop, they gave it a name, fixed decimal number. I assume sometime in the near future, they are going to unify the name to make it exactly the same in Excel and Power BI Desktop, but the symbol is clear, the dollar sign. Would you like to replace current? Let's replace current. And I finished the second step in any business intelligence application project, which is cleaning and transforming our data. Getting the data, cleaning and transforming the data. Now I want to send it back to Power BI Desktop. And to do that, I go to the Home tab, and the name of the button in Power BI Desktop is not Close and Load, it's Close and Apply, because we are not sending it anywhere. We are just sending it to Power BI Desktop. So I click on Close and Apply on the left side of the Home tab. So it's loading the query, all cities, and now I can see in the fields pane the different fields that we created in the query editor. This is the report view. If you want to look at your data in a tabular format, you go to the data view. And here is my data in the data view. If I was in Excel, then at this point I will start creating a pivot table. And when I create a pivot table, I will use it for creating a pivot chart. But I'm in Power BI Desktop. And in Power BI Desktop, we have much more powerful visualizations. And I'm going, as a next step, to visualize my data, to get insights about my data, to answer business questions about my data, and I'll be doing that in report view. Were you able to create the project up to this step? To give you the full picture, I'm going to take my project to the next step, and I'll be creating visualization. In another session, I'll be talking in much more details about visualizations, but just to get the flavor of what you can do, getting the data, cleaning and transforming the data, visualizing the data, and then sharing it, I will be continuing this project and visualize my data, but we'll be doing this after a short break. Do you have any questions? Any questions? Are you still happy with the course? Only happy or very happy?